My name is Matt DeBow, and I'm here to talk to you about light once again. I have written a book on light in medicine, and today I'm going to talk about the effects of artificial light. And here is my book up here on Amazon. Bring it up on the screen. And my book is on different health benefits and medical applications and how light affects us in general. So basically, one of the things that artificial light, the problem with artificial light is that it's only specific wavelengths, where full spectrum light is actually from the sun, has the full rainbow, all the different wavelengths of light. And when we're in artificial light, it's isolated down to specific wavelengths. We don't need all those wavelengths to see. So what's happened is in the beginning there was incandescent light, and it was really on the yellow side of the spectrum. And then they invented the fluorescent tube, and the fluorescent tube was also only specific wavelengths of light. And it's amazing that how light will really affect our hormones in our body. And when light has this effect, it actually has a negative impact on biology. One of the things another thing that light does, fluorescent lights have, is a flicker rate, and that flicker rate can affect concentration, irritability, and even cause seizures in some people. I mean, obviously now we have LEDs which don't have that flicker rate, but there is a lot of other effects that happen with artificial light. And one of the things is it throws off our endocrine system. And what happens is because we evolved under natural sunlight, we get into artificial light, and serotonin and melatonin actually simultaneously release. In the morning we wake up, serotonin, sun comes up, serotonin kicks in. At night we go to sleep and melatonin kicks in. And there's a lot of evidence now that's pointing to how artificial light, after the sun goes down, can really have an adverse effect on our health. So the sun rays are about 100,000 lux, and that's a measurement of light. Artificial light inside only goes up to like 500. If you're lucky, you'll get 1,000 lux of artificial light. And so that is not good. We need a higher lux rate of light. Another thing is that there's lots of different stories that have been done, research studies that have been done. One of the research studies talks about how a couple hours of full spectrum light can really help women with PMS. There's another study done by PG&E which found that children perform 26% higher than under full spectrum light than traditional artificial light. There's lots of different studies out there, and some of the studies have to do with changing the color of walls, which is really, really interesting, that if you change the colors of wall, children can perform better, blood pressure gets lowered, and they're even saying that clothing color can affect it. But artificial light can do some pretty bad stuff, which are headaches and glare from eye strain, fatigue, epileptic seizures, which I mentioned. And another thing is the blood can coagulate. There's actually some studies where they showed people's blood under artificial light and then under, being out in the sun, and it's a huge difference. So one of the guys that I talked about in my last segment was John Ott. And what John Ott discovered was that when he was doing time-lapse photography, if the plants were under different types of light, that they would grow to be really healthy and bloom, or in other cases, if he limited certain wavelengths, the plants would be really unhealthy and even die in some cases. So, I mean, here it's happening with plants. That's going to have an effect on our biology as well. There was a study done on women that worked the night shift in hospitals, and what it found is that women that worked the night shift had a 50% higher rate of breast cancer than the general population. So a lot of this full spectrum light, and the Germans had figured that out. And they figured out that we want to run full spectrum lights in all our hospitals. So they mandated it in Germany to run full spectrum light bulbs. And a full spectrum light, the difference is a regular light bulb is about 2800 K, which is that yellowy light, where full spectrum lights are 5000 K. That's the color temperature of the light. So some of the other studies, which I mentioned in my last segment, I went into how there was a cancer ward in New York that got the cancer patients to go outside into the sunlight, and the cancer stopped progressing. It didn't eliminate the cancer, but it stopped it from progressing. There's another study that came out of the University of Chicago Dental Clinic, and they found that getting out in the sunlight and getting out from artificial light reduces cavities. There's just lots of studies out there, and Lancet published a study where what they found is that there was a correlation between people that were indoors versus outdoors, and they found that indoors in fluorescent light, and it led to higher cases of melanoma. The U.S. Navy also did a study, and they found that the people indoors had higher rates of melanoma than their counterparts that were outside. Dr. Helen Shaw did an interesting study where she was researching the incidence of melanoma, and what she did is she researched people who worked indoors every day and people who worked outdoors. And what she found, to her surprise, that people who worked indoors had the highest rates of melanoma. And out of all the people that she studied, sunbathers who are out in the sun on a regular basis had the lowest rates of melanoma. And there's been a lot of stuff about melanoma being caused by the sun, but a lot of the research is kind of pointing into another direction. There was another company, and they were a company out of Florida. And this company found, after they installed full spectrum light bulbs, that the production went up by 25%, and their employees were not affected by the flu season like a lot of other companies. So there's a lot of information and studies coming out, and and here's kind of an outline of daylight, and here's an incandescent light, here's a fluorescent light, and here's a halogen and different types of LED lights. But I'm seeing more and more studies coming out that are kind of really starting to critique how blue light affects us, and how and the LED and the blue light in our computer monitors, and the blue light that's basically in a lot of stuff. But what I'm finding is that some of these studies have holes in them, and I might go into these more in a later segment, because I'm not in agreement with a lot of this. But blue light at night, you definitely don't want it. You want to reduce your blue light as soon as the sun goes down. You want to turn your lights off and go to bed, because the more we're under artificial light, the more it's throwing off our endocrine system. So I'm going to wrap it up, and thanks for watching, and keep me posted on stuff. Email me anything you find.